Yeah.
Hi, Luann Hammond, DrivingTheNation. Is this what you just tried? If next year something did happen and there was a rescission of climate action plan, canceling of the Paris Climate Agreement, and the revitalizing of the coal industry, would this hedge your bets against all of that?
Are you asking me?
Any of them?
I can take a crack at
Go ahead. I've already asked that. I'll answer that. I already have a very clear answer to that.
Well,
That is a pure counterfactual.
well said. Here's the evidence that you've got before you with these jurisdictions, and that is long before the jurisdictions of the world got together in Paris, we had already come together in our region. We certainly want to see the agreement in Paris come to life around the world and have the impact that we all hoped it would when it was signed. I think we all harbor the belief that that will happen. We have optimism. But whatever happens with the rest of the world, we are united in knowing what we need to do here and in pressing to see other jurisdictions around us adopt the same kind of aggressive measures.
Look, I want to add to that. The fact we're here more strongly than ever is an indication of the growing support and consensus for dealing with climate change. And that's why this is a very important decision for people to make. Canada made a very important decision and threw out one guy who didn't like dealing with climate change and put in another one who's completely committed. That definitely changed the chemistry, changed the politics, and it got Canada on, in my judgment, a much better track. So, two, it would be very ironic if Canada all of a sudden went environment and America went in the opposite direction. I don't think that's going to happen, and I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure it doesn't happen. That is, elect Hillary Clinton president. Thank you.
Governor Jerry Grant, do you think that legislation is required to extend the cap and trade program beyond 2020? And do you support its extension? And why haven't you been able to get the market expanded in states like Oregon and Washington?
Well, because this is not, patty cake here. We're not talking about a bar mitzvah speech. This is controlling carbon emissions. Carbon is a major industry, very important to our whole economy. We're trying to transition to a decarbonized economy. People resist. The people who made buggy whips fought very hard. Eventually, they were gone. This is a little more challenging. So I'm not going to opine on that legal question. That's an opinion that will be rendered in the appropriate forum. But in terms of why low carbon is hard to attain, a low carbon standard, or cap and trade, or any of these rules, it is changing the nature of business and the economy. It's clearly the right path, but there's always resistance. But that resistance is being overcome. The fact is, a few years ago, the Paris Agreement was unimaginable. But President Clinton was able to agree with President Xi, and that was a real force that pulled many other nations together, as well as many other countries that care. So I don't minimize the difficulty. I don't think this is a given. We have to fight hard to get on the right path to reduce carbon emissions and keep our societies, our environments working in the way we'd like them. So it's a battle. It's partisan in some cases, but not in all. And I think I'm impressed. I've talked to Secretary Moniz today. I've talked to other people. There's more optimism than I saw even 6 months ago. So we're making progress. The only trouble I would say right now, the climate change is moving faster than the response to climate change. So this is important, and we have to keep stepping up our efforts.
If I can take a crack from Washington's perspective. The sad fact is the reason we haven't had faster action on this in my state is that one of the chambers of our legislature is controlled by climate deniers. and they just deny that this is a problem. And if they deny this is a problem, it's unlikely that they will be fruitful in helping us find a solution. And I think the best evidence of the problem we face is that party's even nominated a person who says climate change is a hoax. Now, I have trouble understanding that because from the top of the Trump Tower, you can see the curvature of the Earth. And yet we have a Flat Earth Society member as a nominee of one of these major parties. That needs to get resolved. But it is because the people are demanding it. They're demanding it in our states because this is not a hypothetical issue. When you see your house burned down from a fire that burned forests in my state the size of Delaware, it is not a hypothetical issue. It's an issue that demands a response. And this is a very rapidly moving change in the political landscape. People want a solution to this problem, they're going to get it.
Dr. Brown, Deborah Kahn from Greenwire. Bernie Sanders held a rally today near Monterey where he opposed federal approval of offshore fracking off of California. Also, I think Clinton has...
Offshore?
Yeah.
I didn't think there was any offshore, not much offshore drilling. Is there in California?
They approved it, though. It could happen more. So, do you have
What?
anything to say about that?
Yeah, I've been a very strong opponent of drilling off the coast of California. Now, there are some federal leases, and what goes on there is something I'm certainly interested in. I'll certainly would take a look at that. But it's not one that seems like it's a federal decision, is it not?
They did approve it last week, yeah.
Who's the they?
Bureau of Offshore Energy.
That's a federal agency. Well, they didn't check with me.
Governor Brown, should Bernie Sanders drop out of the race if he's polling even with Hillary Clinton in California?
I made my thoughts crystal clear in the little piece that I worked very hard on. Right? And even though some of you media folks omitted some of the key sentences, and I would direct your attention to those that were omitted in most of the accounts, because there's some important concerns there. I laid it out. I don't give more advice than that. I'm going to parcel out my advice very carefully over the next days and weeks on that particular topic.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.